who do you hold accountable, and who is accountable for the Healthcare.gov website? And we'll start off with Mark to get started with this question.
I hold Ted Cruz responsible. I'm just kidding. Honestly, I hold the government responsible. They are the ringleader. They chose the vendors. They put this project together. They put together requirements. And so I can only imagine what mayhem, maybe I'm being sympathetic, overly sympathetic to the companies who are actually hired to develop this website. But honestly, I cannot imagine the complexity of trying to build a website with that many vendors involved. And in fact, I guess when they went to testify in Capitol Hill, they asked, who was in charge of making sure that all these piece parts were actually going to work together? And nobody raised their hand and said, oh, well, we were the systems integrator. And in fact, it was kind of strange because one vendor, per some of the documents that had been out there, kind of looked like they were the systems integrator. But at the actual hearing at Congress, they said, we're not the systems integrator. So I really think that ultimately this is the government's responsibility. They were launching the website. At any point, they could have said also it needs to be delayed and hold their people accountable. So, it's tough to really assign blame because I think that this will make a great book someday for a lot of geeks like us to read to figure out, how all this came together or didn't come together. But that's my gut instinct.
All right, John, your response. Who is accountable?
With a project that this large, I think it's hard to pinpoint exactly one person that is responsible, specifically because with a project of this scope, it's rare to have one project manager who understands every single step that's going to be involved in a product like this. And unfortunately, you usually want to have somebody like that, somebody who can actually take a look from kind of the top down and determine exactly what are the issues that are going on with a website before they come up. Now, this website did have a lot of people working on it and did have a lot of different project managers probably handling all the different bits and pieces. But in terms of integrating everything together and making sure that everything worked together to begin with, I don't really know if there was one person who was responsible for that. I think it's easy for the press to point their fingers at one specific person and say, well, this is their fault. But really, it's kind of a lot of people's fault. And I think one of the issues that happen, and this is just human psychology, is that when you bring more people into a project like this, the actual amount of efficiency per person decreases. And so that's just organizational psychology right there. Usually the more people that you add onto a project, the less efficient every single person actually becomes. And that's just because it's easy to kind of delve out blame to other people. It's easy to blame other people for roadblocks that are preventing you from getting your work done. And I think those sort of things just sort of multiply. With a project like this, any one vendor who's not doing their job to the utmost that they can be becomes a roadblock for every single other vendor that's working on this project, and then just exponentiates the number of problems that you deal with. And so, I mean, who really knows? It's kind of the same thing with traffic, right? If you're stuck in traffic, the biggest reasons for a lot of major road traffic issues is not usually a major crash or something. It's just some people just driving slower than everybody else. And that just causes this giant wave of slowdowns that can last for miles. And I will assume that probably the same thing would happen with this project as well.
Come on, you guys. You guys are being way too nice to something so terrible. Let's go, Jeff. Tell us, who's really to blame in this?
The reason being, here is the deal that we see with every project that we do, having lots of experience with nothing nearly this size, but lots of experience with lots of good-sized projects. When a project starts to go sideways, the only solution is to take somebody into the project who actually understands everything that's going on, and they have the power to do something about it. There have been people yelling this entire project. There has to be. There is no way that everyone just got blindsided 3 weeks ago and went, oh crap, no one has tested this. Whoops, we must have forgotten that. Like, that did not happen. People have been yelling inside this project for 2 years saying this doesn't work, this is not going to work, this is a debacle, and have been yelling and yelling and yelling. You have never heard about this because of fear. Fear of criticism, fear of stuff leaking out, and having absolutely silenced all of your developers, all of your contractors, where they can't say a word. Well, so all this yelling never makes it all the way up the chain. I don't know if we'll ever know where the yelling stopped. Because I promise you developers were yelling. Probably the project managers were yelling. Did it just get to the president of each individual contractor and they shut them up? Did it go up to Health and Human Services? They shut them up. Did it go to the president's aides and they shut them up? Did it go to the president and he said, well, keep going anyway? I don't know, and I don't know that we'll ever know. But what has been happening is somebody is not listening to the people actually on the ground. And so, well, we'll go into it in the solution section. I have a wild and crazy and very simple idea that could fix all this.